Hello, welcome to 21st Century Film Club. We're about to review The Pale Blue Eye, which is available on Netflix. So, what did we think about The Pale Blue Eye?
It was okay. Very 7 out of 10. Good start. I think it built the tension up nicely in the first act. It kind of got a bit boring in the middle portion of the film. I don't think they drew out the tension enough. Or they did, but it wasn't good tension. They could have made it more mysterious, more like haunting, not like scary, but just a bit a bit more mystery, I guess, to it. But then like the last half hour, last 45 minutes of the film, I thought were really good. I thought they executed the story really well. Good payoff and a good twist as well, good plot twist.
What did you think, Seamus?
Yes, I did like the slowness of the film, but I do think it was about 20 or half an hour too long. I think they could have easily cut that film down in length and made it a lot tighter. And I really like the drawn-out suspension throughout the whole film. I think my favourite bit of the film was the beginning and just the world building and getting to know Christian Bale's character and getting to know Edgar Allan Poe. And I think after that, I think when I got a bit bored was I was like, when it was just Edgar Allan kind of Poe and people now talking to each other, and I was just like, when are they gonna find out
what's going on?
Because it just felt like they just wasted a bit of time. It was a really good film in that it's a different time period that we're used to seeing on film. We're reviewing a film as well in the 1920s and 30s, and I think that's really been overdone. So for this time period, which I'm going to be honest here, I don't really know what time period exactly this film was set in from memory.
1800s or late 1800s?
Late 1800s.
I think.
But it was that kind of fantastical time period where it doesn't really matter. And I think that might be the approach you should go lead into this film. Where you
I think also the rural setting helped with that as well.
Yeah.
Overall, my opinion, I quite liked this film. I know what you mean. In fact, it was quite drawn out at points, especially in that middle bit when they weren't quite finding out who was doing it. They had suspicions around the family. There's some spoiler alerts. Suspicions around the family who actually were involved. I had a few issues with it, even though I liked it overall. Personally, so the two main things I slightly struggled with was before New York appeared on the screen, listening to the accents, I had no idea where we were. And I don't know if that's because I don't know what people sounded like back then and they were actually spot on accents, but I think I was like, ooh, that's strange, where are we? Then I realised we were meant to be in like old America. So like some of them I think were a little bit dodgy, especially the actor, was it Harry Melling that did Edgar Allan Poe? He does a very good Southern American accent, and there's other films that he's done that accent in, and it is very good. But Edgar Allan Poe was born in Massachusetts, so he probably wouldn't have had that accent, which I thought was strange, and it was different from everybody else's. I also think another brave but slightly unconventional choice, which I don't know if I disliked it, but I was just struggling with, was the whole choice of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
Because there were some aspects that were similar to his life. So he went to train in like army camp or whatever, I don't know what the technical terms is, but like
it's a famous place, isn't it?
Yeah, so he did go and do that, and obviously he's written some novels and short stories about sort of solving crimes and mysteries and things like that, and obviously his poetry was included. But quite a lot of what was written was obviously made up and not to do with his lifestyle, his like lifeline at all. Like nothing, it didn't even match up age-wise with Edgar Allan Poe's actual story. So I just found that kind of strange because they've chosen a historical figure that we know quite a lot about and been like, scrap that, we're going to completely make a whole new life for this guy, drawing on a few things we know, but ignoring a lot of other things that we do know, if that makes sense. And I ended up Googling some of it halfway through, like, I'm pretty sure this
No,
And I know they were like, drawing on the fact that he wrote mystery short stories like Murder Gothic. He was like one of the first founders of like murder mystery and Gothic literature, which was amazing in the Romantic period. So I know they were drawing on that. It just took me a little while to be like, okay, so it's like we're in one of his short stories rather than, and he's put himself in that rather than his actual life, which I think was very clever device. So it's almost like we're reading one of his novellas and he's in it. Rather than a factual life
a character.
story.
It is interesting. I don't know. You could view this as like exploitative. It's his life. He's a famous one. He's pioneered this genre, and now Netflix is like, okay, who's on our list of people that are copyright free that we can dig
How
up
long ago did he
and
die?
make a new twist on it. But I guess that is what fiction is about. It's about borrowing and stealing from other people. I think the question would be, was there too much stealing from him? Because it would be interesting, and I haven't read any of his work. Really all I know about him is from The Simpsons, when I think Homer does the Raven, I think. That's all I think I know about him.
I'm sure a lot of viewers also wouldn't have.
So I think it'd be interesting if he had a better story there, which had better plot twists, because there was a good plot twist in this film. But I actually don't think I think the film, if we were to compare it with Agatha Christie and that really popular genre of detective mysteries, which my parents are obsessed with, like Poirot, like
the
all
whodunit.
that. My parents are obsessed with this. So they're like, oh, we've already watched this. Get a life, you know, like keep up. But I do have to say, I don't think it was very well executed in general, the entire plot of the film. Like, it wasn't like a novelist had done it, you know?
I feel like maybe they were trying to be a bit different with it, though.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there are a lot of, like, you know, remakes with Agatha Christie and things like that. There was the Murder on the Orient Express fairly recent, in the last few years anyway. And that is a very popular style of murder mystery. But they're very overdone, and for a reason, everybody loves them, and it's a very good formula, but they're very formulaic, the whodunits, and, you know, Agatha Christie has basically the same style every single time, just different, and it works because you are gripped. I'm also a massive Agatha Christie fan, but this one was really interesting because it was slightly different, and it didn't have all the elements of, okay, this is the suspect, this is the, you know, what happened with the crime. It was slightly more different, which obviously some people really like and some people don't. I liked it. I think it was a bit of a twist at the end, and I personally thought that was very effective.
I kind of wish that they put more attention, or like just make us care about the person who died, or like at the start. I wish they would have made us care more and just not put the attention on Landor, Christian Bale's character, which he carries like most of the first part of the film, and he's like the main person like we're meant to care about. But it's like, no, this crime's happening, we're meant to be caring about this dead person. So yeah, that for me didn't really work, and I thought by the time we get to the middle part, I was like, oh, I don't really care about this. Like, what? But no, I thought, other than that, I thought just like I said before, about the tension part of it, like, oh, the whodunit part of it was that was really well done, and then Edgar Allan Poe, the actor,
Harry.
I thought he was brilliant. I thought he carried the last 2/3 of the film. I thought he was really good. The chemistry between Bale and him was really good.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And I thought in a very strong cast, you got Gillian Anderson.
Another questionable accent, though.
Oh my god!
Oh, her accent. So I have just been watching The First Ladies, where she plays Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And her accent in that is also the exact same.
I don't know if that's actually a correct accent, but it felt weird to me.
It was very much like so Eleanor Roosevelt had a radio voice which was quite affected and fake.
Right.
Because it's for radio, and that kind of makes more sense. But in real life, people don't speak in this fake way. It's like similar to Margaret Thatcher, which Gillian also played. So I love Gillian Anderson.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
she's great.
But I think her accents, I don't think she nailed Margaret Thatcher's accent actually on The Crown, and I don't think she nailed either the upper crust American accents, New England, and I think it is because British people in general and Irish can do Southern American accents really well naturally, just because of the way our language is developed, but we struggle with New England, Yankee, not the Southerner accent. So it is, if it was set in the South of America, it would be a much different vibe.
I mean, Edgar Allan Poe wasn't even from the South, and his accent was immaculate Southern accent.
Harry Mellon's accent was not the best, neither was Gillian Anderson.
He's good at his accent. I think that accent was perfect. It wasn't the right accent for the film, or the place, or the person, but it was a great accent. He's very good at what he does with that accent. Yeah. He does a Southern accent like almost immaculately.
He is a believable actor in that I don't see him.
He's a very, very good actor.
And I think Gillian's actually the same,
Yeah.
in that I do see the character she is playing. And Christian Bale, it was a bit more, and I didn't dislike this, but it was a bit more like Hollywood rock star Christian Bale is now, it's a bit like The Witcher to me, and Henry Cavill in that type of big celebrity. I thought his acting was good, but I don't know, maybe it was a hairstyle he had and other things. He just seemed a bit more modern than all the other characters in that film. A bit more like
I feel like because you're so into like actors and pop culture and things like that, it's harder for you to immerse yourself. Whereas I feel like I obviously watch a lot of films, but I don't follow up on actors. And I'm not really that into the actual actors and the Oscars and things like that, even though I love film. So I guess it's easier for me to immerse myself in it because I'm not thinking, oh, hold on, I remember when we saw them, and you know. So I guess it depends on the viewer. I think
my actual point, more accurately, is that he is almost too good looking for this type of role in being like the scruffy, beleaguered father who's grieving and other things. I just think he looked a bit too shiny for the entire film, where a lot of the other characters, like the smaller characters like Lucy Boynton, who played the sister, she in real life is stunning. And in this film they gave her quite nice wrinkles and like other things, because you know she's ill and she's deathly, and she's kind of playing that archetype.
I completely have the opposite opinion. I think they made the main character look like very scruffy and a bit like.
I think she looks
fantastic. So I guess that's like very good point, but it is just up to personal opinion because I had the exact opposite view of it.
I agree with you. I think Christian Bale in it was just like well immersed, and I was like able to like separate the actor and the character role very well, and I just think Bale is like really good at that, because I think a recent film, For Love and Thunder, like that was a terrible film, but I think he was in it for like 10-20 minutes, and he was like one of the best parts of that film in a crappy film.
I did compare him to 1994's Little Women, which is set in the same time period roughly, and he plays Laurie, and he's really good in that as a young actor. I think it's just for me, I have to admit, when I do watch a film, sometimes in the back of my head when I remember it especially, I just see the visual picture of the film, and I think for me it's just he stood out as a bit too perfect looking. But it's interesting, I completely disagree with Lucy Boynton's character, because to me I was like, oh, she looks rather pale, and then 2 seconds later they're saying, oh, she's
ill, and you're like, I knew it.
I knew it.
What do you think about like that fact that Leah's family and all the satanic rituals and things like that, and that sort of element of the film? What did you view on that?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was probably reflective of that time, maybe about the 1850s, late 1800s. I don't know what time it was, but around that time, I guess this upper class family trying to find anything or just something they can to heal their daughter. I think that suits that time period really well. I thought they could have done a bit more pushing towards that theme a bit earlier on. Maybe made a point of how religion is like a big thing in this society, in this world. But we didn't really do that until probably like about halfway through.
I see it very much like Agatha Christie, in that she sometimes has this plot where there's this new age hoo-ha cult craze that is sweeping the middle classes and the chattering classes of Britain. So it's interesting to see in America, you have the same thing where it's people who have a lot of money, but not much going up there compared to the people. And I think the part of the film specifically that really made this point clear to me was when Gillian Anderson was saying to Landor, you are very, very intelligent. And I think that was a sign to the audience that this is a tiny bit of social commentary, saying that people with too much money who have problems then turn to cults, craze, fads, which we saw, to be fair to Agatha Christie, at her in the 1920s and 30s, Britain was a riot with people believing nonsense, complete nonsense, like phenomenon-wise. And it is true in America of witchcraft, and they did link it back to witches quite a lot in this film. So it is that kind of superstitious American element that never really went away in their society, if you think of Hillary Clinton and others, you know, where it's all about witch burning. But I saw it as social commentary. I don't think those characters, that family, were well developed in a more Christie-like fashion. Yeah. Where, as we were saying earlier, she would often have a detective go around to every single character and you find a little bit about them, and there's a little red herring. And
I agree in the fact I feel like the family definitely could have been more developed. In terms of like the whole like satanic witchcrafty stuff involved, so you see it as maybe a slightly social commentary. I see it more as a plot device. So I thought it was because of what we know about like that time period, even in Britain and America. It was so easy for me to be like, yeah, it'll be the creepy, like ritualistic, Satanist, witchy people. Like I sunk into that really easy. The second the main character was like, this is what we're looking for, I was like, yeah, that fits the bill. That fits the bill. That's exactly who it will be. So for me, that made the plot twist at the end, finding out they didn't actually kill these people. Obviously, they did weird stuff. But it was him that actually killed them. For me, that made that more powerful because for me, throughout the film, he was like the voice of reason. He was like the person to trust. He was like attractive, kind. Like he was the person who was like finding out all this stuff and seemed very like he had his head screwed on. He wasn't going to go and do some, in my opinion, slightly zany things. So then when I found out he was doing all this cutting the hearts and like doing what for the second victim, and he was killing them and hanging them, it just made it even more hard hitting. And I like can see obviously they explained why, but I think for me the whole like satanic element of it was a plot device to sort of draw you into thinking it's definitely them, to make the twist even more
I do agree with you. The twist was really good with the satanic device, and they did play on audience expectations really well. It was a good twist. I just think the entire film just could have been a bit shorter considering the amount of twists.
But like when there was that big twist at the end, obviously like let's say the middle bit was shorter, like how did you react when you found out that it was actually him that was killing
you? That was good. And I think it was an interesting thing about paying attention as well, because I didn't really pay attention to his kind of daughter, but I think my parents definitely would have clocked that straight away. Like, but I'm never good at figuring out murder mysteries. I don't even bother, to be honest.
I don't know. Like for me, like I knew there was like another twist. I didn't see the twist coming, but I knew there was a twist coming because I kind of like when the main culty part ended, I was like, well, there's like half an hour left of this film.
Oh, you're keeping a tab on the time.
I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't do it on purpose. I was like, well, there's half an hour left of this film. Like, where are we going with this? Like, this story's ended. And I was like, oh, okay, there's a twist coming. Okay, I get this. And then I didn't see that coming at all. I was like, whoa. Okay. And I thought that was really well done. And Melling and the Edgar Allan Poe, the way he like that just.
A powerful scene.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. And yeah, just again, he just carried that portion of the film so good.
Yeah. I think he did carry that film as well. And I think if you had, I did enjoy the taking revenge for his daughter, but in my view, it plays into the very much John Wick revenge fantasy films that have a macho hero doing everything they can do, and that's a bit more modern. But again, that does happen. It's more realistic for someone to murder because of passion and revenge than because of a cult. You know, that I prefer that motivation.
And it's kind of showing that in those days, people's like mentality of revenge and things was similar. They've carried on throughout history, whereas obviously it's less likely these days that you're going to get cult people. Obviously, I know it exists, but I think for me, what would have made the twist potentially even more powerful was if we'd actually known more about his daughter. Because as you were saying, you didn't really pay attention to that bit. I also, at some points before it was kind of spelled out, thought that was his wife, but when they were younger. I was struggling, because obviously it was mainly flashbacks, and it was like him holding bits of her dress, because I know that his wife died. So in my head, when I found out his wife died, then we went to this clip of this beautiful woman like dancing, I was like, oh, that must be his fondest memory of his wife. So then it was only kind of a little bit through the film where I was like, oh, but he said about his daughter, so maybe that. And then I understand, because that's what makes the plot twist so cute. I know you're meant to have thought that and then be like, oh my god, it was his daughter. But I actually feel like having a connection to the person who was attacked and assaulted might have actually been more powerful, because it's like the classic thing you do in literature and in films. You have to make the audience connect to the person you're then going to go kill off.
It was just unrealistic, her suicides as well. Her just jumping. I just felt like the jumping off, that was a bit where my grasp on this kind of film kind of left for a while, because I completely understand why she would do that, because I thought they did quite a good job of portraying the horrific horror of it with all the West Point soldiers going after her. But then when it came to that, I did find it a plot device, basically. You know, she didn't survive. She had to kill herself to give the entire plot of the film meaning. You know,
but they could have done that. They could have just changed the script. Like, I don't think they were just doing, we need something. Let's kill her. Like, I feel like that was main. I don't know. Like, I thought that was probably quite relevant.
She could have. Yeah, I just felt like she could have died another way, not.
But then it wouldn't have linked to the whole point. And the whole point, I think, was that for me anyway. I'm just disagreeing with you on this one point. I think that she was going through such trauma that it led her to enter life. Which is why, and I know what you mean, and maybe it was a bit dramatic, but I actually feel like potentially that is more common, especially in those days when like there wasn't sort of, like therapy and treatment. Like that trauma, especially for a woman who in those days, she was unmarried. You would have had to have been a virgin to have been you know, a credible lady in society. So she was ruined, as they say. I feel like a lot of women in that situation probably would have killed themselves.
It's more so the visual of her falling off, you know, stepping back and falling, and that's how she dies. I just found that a bit of a cliche, and
it was slightly unrealistic.
I didn't like that bit. I think I completely understand with you about the ruined woman, and maybe she died in childbirth, or like something like that would have been like dark and gruesome, but a bit realistic to the time. But I said the thing that pushed him to the edge
would have been
was
a bit too much.
I don't know. I
don't think that would have been related at all. I think the fact that it was the trauma of the assault that caused her to kill herself. I agree with the way they scripted it and like, you know, like shot it. It wasn't like very realistic because in terms of like, obviously I'm just imagining, but in terms of getting to that situation and being on the cliff edge, you'd probably be like shaking and like even like crying. Like I feel like that potentially that the acting of it was a little less realistic. I guess that was mainly to demonstrate how mad she was, that it wasn't even terrifying. She'd just gone crazy with the trauma. But I feel like killing her off in a different way wouldn't have worked. And I liked it. I think this is why she's done that, because of the trauma, and that's why he's killing her. Like, it wouldn't have been relevant in any way had she died another way. I agree that the acting could have been more like, you know, people getting in such a state when before they do things like that, like weighing themselves, you know, like something like that could have been a bit more hard-hitting. But I feel like potentially they were trying to show that she'd gone mad, and you know.
I like the plot twist, but the more we talk about it, the more I just think it's lazier than like the best detective mystery work. And maybe I just dislike the entire plot in general of his motivations, the entire side story, because I think if it was a perfectly crafted mystery, maybe I'd respect it more.
As in if there were like more hints throughout.
More hints and not a cop-out, because it is a cop-out having the detective character be the murderer. That's like one of the rules in, you know, Christie, is you don't have the detective.
Think it's a cop-out. I think that's a type of detective literature
it's
or
the
film.
one I don't dislike.
But I don't think it's a cop-out, because that is a main note of like thought about feature.
It's a thing to have someone who is trusted and you assume they're not the suspect.
I know what you mean by lazy, and the fact that like it's like, take the most trusted person, make them the bad guy. I get that, but that is like one of the most notable.
It's a famous. It's famous. I think it's just
whether you like it or not is a different thing. I do get that. It was potentially like, oh yeah, it was the main guy. You know, I wasn't expecting it, but like I could see how when you think about the film after, it's not like, oh, we should have known all along. It was like, right, they've just picked the main guy.
I don't know. I kind of wanted it to be Edgar Allan Poe. I kind of just add a little twist. Oh, hello. But then about halfway through, when they were like, oh, the guy in the pub bar or something was like, a poet did it, and it's just like, well, it's not going to be Edgar Allan Poe, is it? It's like killed all these people. But no, I think the detective being like the main. But I agree with you. I think that's like that's fine with me.
No, I love the scenery. The plot, most of the plot and everything. I think the more I think about it, the sillier the whole thing becomes with the adding Edgar Allan Poe.
It's not a thinker.
No, it isn't. It is having the poet in it and him and Landor having wacky adventures in the future. I guess I was a bit disappointed because I would rather have those two be buddies at the end of the film, and I thought there was
going to be I think I was slightly disappointed because I was expecting a really nice, clever link to Edgar Allan Poe's actual life.
Yeah.
And I was like, obviously because I know the whole point of it is that we were like inside one of his novellas, or we were inside one of his short stories, like seeing it through his eyes, as though he was also an unreliable narrator there. But I was like, please link it back to like his actual life story. That'd be so cool, like his timeline of his life, and then we could be like, oh, maybe this, as in like if like the viewer had any idea of Edgar Allan Poe's history, could be like, oh my god, this almost is plausible that it could have happened, because like that then links onto why he then like, because he made himself get discharged from the army in real life. So I was like, maybe there's going to be a link to why that happened, you know. But it was just fantasy, which is it's still good, but for me I was slightly disappointed.
No, that's a very good point. I think the real life details of Edgar Allan Poe they shied away from. It doesn't make sense. It actually just does not make sense. You could think they could gain something from everything that happened to him.
I think it was meant to be like we were inside one of his murder mysteries.
Yeah, but they failed on that account.
Yeah, it was just slightly disappointing. But like overall, personally, I really enjoyed it.
No, I really enjoyed it too. I'd recommend it to pretty much anyone. And I don't think it's a bad thing that we disagree with the twists. Because in a way that is the point of the twist, so that everyone, all the readers, would actually discuss it against each other and be like, with Agatha Christie,
I think it was good. I would potentially recommend it to friends. I'm not actually that sure I'd rave about it to friends, but that's just me.
It's better than most things that are out there.
I wouldn't really say it's better than like a Agatha Christie like film, like the Murder of a Orient Express, but I say it's a good watch. I definitely recommend it, and yeah, overall I thought it was pretty good.
Thank you for watching 21st Century Film Club.